Okay, we're on chapter 8, and we're starting on text 9. So, kṛṣṇera pratijñā dṛḍha sarva-kāle āche, yaiche, bhaje Kṛṣṇa, tāre, bhaje, taiche. Lord Kṛṣṇa has made a firm promise for all time. If one renders service unto him, Kṛṣṇa correspondingly gives him an equal amount of success in devotional service to the Lord. Boy, that's quite a promise. And the promise is coming from Lord Kṛṣṇa. Purport. It is a completely mistaken idea that one can worship Kṛṣṇa in any form or in any way and still attain the ultimate result of receiving the favor of the Lord. This is a decision made by gross materialists. Generally, such men say that you can manufacture your own way of worshiping the Supreme Lord, and that any type of worship is sufficient to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Certainly, there are different means for attaining different results in fruitive activity, speculative knowledge, mystic yoga, and austerity. Crude men, therefore, say that one who adopts any of these methods achieves the Supreme Personality of Godhead's favor. They claim that it doesn't matter what kind of method one adopts. A general example is given. If one wishes to arrive at a certain place, there are many roads leading there, and one can go to that place by any one of these roads. Similarly, these gross materialists say there are different ways to attain the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I just lost my spot. I have to scroll and I lose my spot. They claim that one can conceive of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Goddess Durgā, Goddess Kālī, Lord Śiva, demigod Gaṇeśa, Lord Rāmacandra, Kṛṣṇa, the impersonal Brahman, or whatever. And one can chant the Lord's names in any way and in any form. Such materialists claim that since ultimately all these names and forms are one, the result is the same. They also give the example that a man who has different names will answer if called by any of them. Therefore, they claim there's no need to chant the Hare Kṛṣṇa mantra. If one chants the name of Kālī, Durgā, Śiva, Gaṇeśa, or anyone else, the result will be the same. Such claims made by mental speculators are no doubt very pleasing to mental speculators. But those who are actually in knowledge do not admit such conclusions, which are against the authority of the Shastras. A bona fide acharya will certainly not accept such a conclusion. As Kṛṣṇa clearly states in the Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, text 25, Yanti deva vrata devim pratijñāti pratirvitaha, bhutani yanti bhuteja, yanti madhyajino pimam.
Thank you, Prabhu. I'm assuming that everybody would like to read tonight, so I'm going very clockwise. Now,
Saraswati is only going to be listening in this evening.
Yeah, yes, and Rani Mataji. So, Divya Bhakti Mataji.
Hare Kṛṣṇa. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings, and those who worship me will live with me. Only the devotees of the Lord can be admitted to his kingdom, not the demigod worshippers, karmis, yogis, or anyone else. A person who desires elevation to the heavenly planets worships various demigods, and material nature may be pleased to offer such devotees their desired positions. The material nature gives a person his own nature, by which he increases affection for different types of demigods. However, the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, text 20, says that demigod worship is meant for men who have lost all their intelligence. kames tairhita gnagna prabhadyante nya devataha. Tam tam niyam yamam ashtaya prakritya niyat aha svaya. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. Although one may be elevated to the heavenly planets, the results of such a benediction are limited. Antavat tu palam tesham tad bhavatyalpa made hasam. Devan devayajo yanti mad bhakta yanti mam api. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text 23. Being elevated to the heavenly planets or other material planets does not mean attaining an eternal life of knowledge and bliss. At the end of the material world, all attainments of material elevation will also end. Again, according to Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 55, only those who engage in his loving devotional service will be admitted to the spiritual world and return to Godhead, not others.
Thank you, Mataji. Jesus Prabhu, you next.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Madhya mam avijanati javam jasmi tadvataha tatumam tadvato nyandva vishate tadanantaram. One can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me, by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Impersonalists cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, it is not possible for them to enter into the spiritual kingdom of God and return home. Back to Godhead. Actually, one attains different results by different means. It is not that all achievements are one and the same. Those interested in the four principles of Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha cannot be compared to those interested in the unalloyed devotional service of the Lord. Śrīmad Bhagavatam 1:1-2. Therefore says, Dharmaha praveshihita kaitavo traparamo nirmatsaranam satam ejam vastavam atravastu sivatam tapatrajo munlanam Śrīmad Bhagavate Mahamuni Karte Kim Parer Isbaraha Sajo Hardi Avarujyate Tra Kirtivihi Surusuvis Tat Sanat. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled the great sage Sri Vasayeva is sufficient in itself for God realization. As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, he becomes attached to the Supreme Lord.
Thank you, Prabhu. Victoria would like to read tonight?
Yes, she's here.
Sure. Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Those who aspire after liberation attempt to merge into the personal Brahman. To this end, they execute ritualistic religious ceremonies. But Śrīmad Bhagavatam considers this a cheating process. Indeed, such people can never dream of returning home, back to Godhead. There is a gulf of difference between the goal of Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, and Moksha, and the goal of devotional service. The goal is
Excuse me. Prabhu, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So it says those who aspire after liberation attempt to merge into the impersonal Brahman. To this end, they execute ritualistic religious ceremony. But Bhagavatam considers this a cheating process.
Yes. Generally, the concept, when one considers the concept of liberation, moksha, it just refers to becoming free from the pangs of material existence, but it doesn't bring them to the platform of devotional service. In other words, just to give you an example, someone is engaged in karmic activities and their karma continues to cause them existence in a material world. But if it comes to the platform of not engaging in any karmic activities, then one may stop his karma, and therefore he's free from repeated birth and death in the material world. However, he's not in the spiritual realm. In other words, he can stop all the negative activity, but he's not engaged in the positive activity. So moksha generally means to become free from material activity. It's kind of like almost like a neutral or an impersonalist position. Therefore, the devotees kind of reject moksha. A real moksha, real liberation, means engaging in devotional service because that's the positive activity of the living entity. If you just stop engagement, the nature of the soul is to be engaged, so you cannot remain on that platform. And without being aware of further spiritual activity, then you again come back to material activity. Simple example, as a child may be misbehaving in school. So the teacher puts the child in the corner and says, stay in the corner, don't disturb the class. So the child will just stay in the corner, but it can only stay there for so long until it gets restless again and then continues with its restless behavior. However, if that same child is given an opportunity to engage in positive, undisturbing activity in the classroom, then it can go all day without disturbing because it has a positive engagement. Does that make sense? Are you able to follow that?
Mm-hmm. So, to this end, they execute ritualistic religious ceremony. Executing ritualistic religious ceremonies is what people do. Pujas at
Everywhere.
home, yajnas sometimes they're home. So, are they ritualistic ceremonies?
Yes, and yeah, they're ritualistic ceremonies.
And are
For
they
sure.
not good?
Well, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says one who has performed pious activities in this life and in previous life, then he's qualified for devotional service.
That is also one of the devotional service. We are doing it for Lordship.
If you're doing it for the Lordship, then it's devotional service. But in most
Who else
cases,
we are doing it for?
in most cases, ritualistic ceremonies are meant for material gain, either subtle or gross. People practice yoga because they want to develop some mystic potency. Or people engage in a study of Shastra so they can become one with the Lord. So they're all personally motivated. So it's not devotional service. But if you engage your intelligence in learning how to engage in proper devotional service, it's also Jnana Yoga, but it's proper Jnana Yoga. Or if you engage in your activities, let's say mystic yoga, to understand super soul within the heart, because that's the ultimate objective, then it's not ritualistic. But in most cases it is. When you go to a temple, a church, or mosque, people are engaged in rituals, and the priest is there doing a yajna. And what's the yajna for? For money, for honey, for this, for that, mostly for material gain. But if one is doing yajna who for the pleasure of yajna purush, the controller and the owner of the yajna, then that's proper execution, so it's not considered ritualistic. But in Kali Yuga, you can even say that, Sankirtan, chanting 16 rounds a day is it's a ritual. Well, it is, in a sense, it is a ritual because it's something you do every day. But the purpose behind the ritual is for purification and to get to Krishna. So initially we may be chanting Hare Kṛṣṇa with some material motive. But as we get purified, that material motive becomes removed, and then we're engaged in pure chanting just to please Krishna, not to make personal progress. Dhruva Maharaj, of course, is the classic example. He underwent ritualistic performances in order to get a kingdom, a big kingdom, greater than his grandfather, who happened to be Lord Brahma. So he underwent ritualistic performances. But in the course of his austerity, he attracted the attention of Narada Muni, and eventually he attracted the attention of Lord Vishnu because he was being guided by Narada Muni. So his purposes were changed from material gain to just spiritual gain. So the ritualistic process, even if it's materially motivated, if it's done with proper, it's called karma yoga, if it's done with proper, then one can get punya, pious credits, which can help one come to the platform of devotional service. But if one has the opportunity just to immediately engage in devotional service, then learn how to do that. You can perform your yagyas, but perform the yagyas to please Krishna. You're right. So we have to be careful of how we understand religious, ritualistic ceremony.
We do chanting for our purification, and we also have some motive also.
Yeah, initially, yes, and therefore it's not pure.
Yeah.
Pure chanting, pure devotional service is completely free from motive. It's only to please Krishna.
I don't know. I come to temple for who? I don't know.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. We come for our benefit.
Yeah.
But we're following the process. We're following the ritual based on bhakti mama abhijanati, to give devotion to Krishna, to please the spiritual master who's given us the direction. So this is the proper approach. And yes, initially we're coming because we want to go back to Godhead. That can be our motive. Prabhupada encouraged us to develop the motive of going back to Godhead. But when one becomes more advanced or very advanced, then na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavicham, vagajisha damaye, jamani ishvari, bhavatad bhakti haikuti. Lord Chaitanya in the fourth verse of the Shastika says, oh my Lord, you may handle me roughly by, oh my Lord, I have no desire to accumulate any wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers, that's more subtle, nor all I want is devotional service, birth after birth. I don't even want to, go back to Godhead. I just want devotional service, birth after birth. So that's a very, very elevated position. Of course, Krishna will take them back to Godhead, but so yes, we are motivated initially, but the ultimate motivation is to get Krishna. So it's spiritual motivation.
And the people who don't come to temple and they say, we have a temple at home, we do, morning, puja, and sometimes in the evening, and that's enough. Is this not the devotional service?
Yes, it's a devotional service. But we make most advancement by devotee
association.
We associate with devotees. Sadhu Sangha. Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha. Sarva Shastra Hoy. Lava Mata Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. This verse is said 3 times. Sadhu Sangha. Associate Sangha, sadhus. Associate with devotees, associate with devotees, associate devotees. Even for a short while. Lava Mata, a pure devotee, even for a moment. Lava Mata, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. One can attain all success. Ado Shraddha, right? First we have a little face. Ado Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sangha. Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti. So sadhu sangha, association with devotees, is very powerful. It's the most important. Shravanam, you can't hear without association with devotees. So some will say, well, we hear Srila Prabhupada, we read his books. There's certainly association with devotees. We attend, we listen to lectures online. Yes, that's association. Srila Prabhupada created ISKCON, his society, so that like-minded people could get together and discuss their the subject matter together. 5 most important aspects of devotional service, of which 64 are listed by Rupa Goswami in the Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. The first 5, Sadhu Sangha, Nama Kirtan, Bhagavat Shravan, Srimurtir Maturvas. Sadhu Sangha is the first, association with devotees. Sadhu Sangha, Nama Kirtan, chanting the holy name. Sadhu Sangha, Nama Kirtan, Bhagavat Shravan, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, like we're doing this evening. Srimurtir, worshipping the deity. And Maturvas, residing in Vrindavan, spiritual world. But anywhere where the deity is properly worshipped, and the standard is that place is non-different than the spiritual world. It's non-different than Mathura. But what does it begin with? Sadhu Sangha. It begins with association. And that's what we're doing right here. We're associating. We're associating with devotees.
But when we read these,
I challenge anyone to say that when we have our evening sessions, that we're not uplifted by that association. If we weren't, I don't think we would continue. We get inspiration, we get enlivened by associating with everyone.
Oh, of course. I wouldn't be here otherwise. But when I read the books, like in these classes, I rarely think that I am doing it for the pleasure of Krishna. It doesn't come in my head, that thought.
No, but it's pleasing to Krishna. You may not be thinking this is, but you hear about Krishna. Shravan, I'm hearing about Krishna. This is one of the 9 processes of devotional service. We may not be thinking, I'm going to read this because it's going to be pleasing to Krishna. I'm going to read this because it's going to be pleasing to my spiritual master. I'm reading this because it was suggested that I should read it. And when I read it, I get some benefit. And why am I getting benefit? Because it's devotional service.
So again, it's my motive.
But when you read alone, like what we're reading right now, you read alone, you get certain understanding. But when you read it together and you discuss it, there's so much benefit. Is it not?
It is certainly, but I'm thinking if it is my material motive.
No, it's not material motive because it's motivation for Krishna.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
All right. I think Victoria started to read.
Divya Mataji raised her hand though.
No. Victoria, she just read a sentence and then you asked the question. So
sorry, Mataji, Victoria, you can continue. Yes, Victoria.
Why don't you start at the beginning of that paragraph again?
Sure.
Since the very beginning,
Yes.
Those who aspire after liberation attempt to merge into the impersonal Brahman. To this end, they execute ritualistic religious ceremonies, but Srimad Bhagavatam considers this a cheating process. Indeed, such people can never dream of returning home, back to Godhead. There is a gulf of difference between the goal of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, and the goal of devotional service. The goddess Durgā is the superintendent deity of this material world, which is made of material elements. The demigods are simply different directors engaged in operating the departments of material activities, and they are under the influence of the same material energy. Krishna's Internal potencies, however, have nothing to do with the creation of the cosmic material world. The spiritual world and all spiritual activities are under the direction of the internal spiritual energy, and such activities are performed by Yogamaya, the spiritual energy. Yogamaya is the spiritual or internal energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who are interested in being promoted to the spiritual world and engaging in the service of the Lord attain spiritual perfection under the control of Yogamaya. Those who are interested in material promotion engage in spiritualistic, religious ceremonies and economic development to develop sense gratification. They ultimately attempt to merge into the impersonal existence of the Lord. Such people generally become impersonalists. They are interested in worshiping Lord Śiva or Goddess Durgā, but their return is 100% materialistic. Thank you, Mataji.
So this, especially in Hindu culture, the goal of life is dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Dharma, perform religious ceremonies. Artha, you get your reward. You get benefited. With the benefits, you get kama, sense enjoyment. And then you aspire for liberation, merging into the existence of the Lord. But the fifth goal of life is devotional service. Is that clear? This dharma, artha, kama, moksha. We've mentioned it and said it many times before. Dharma means doing your duty. You do your duty, and if you do your duty properly, then there's a reward. And with that reward, you can engage in more comfort, more enjoyment, more sense gratification, and then you can aspire for liberation, moksha. But Rupa Goswami, I think it might be Rupa Goswami, I may be mistaken, but it says that moksha, personification of liberation, comes to the devotee and bows down to offer service to the Vaishnava, to the devotee, one who's engaged in devotional service. She stands at the door of one who's engaged in devotional service, waiting to offer service.
So basically, these four stages, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, are the impersonalist approach of the impersonalist. The fifth is missing. Yeah, the fifth stage, which is the pure stage, and it is the main thing, which is devotional service, is missing to them. In them, actually. They do the devotional service, but for the sake of material gain. Right?
Yes. It's all materially motivated. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam, as was quoted previously, kicks out this materially motivated religion, which is called kaitava dharma, cheating. Okay.
Thank you. Any question? Anybody has any question? Purnachandra Mataji, would you like to read tonight?
Yeah, okay. Following the example of the gopis, the devotees sometimes worship the goddess Katyayani, but they understand that Katyayani is the incarnation of Yogamaya. The gopis worshipped Katyayani Yogamaya to attain Krishna as their husband. On the other hand, it is stated in the Sapta Sati scripture that the Kshatriya king named Surata and the rich Vaishya named Samadhi worshipped material nature in the form of goddess Durgā to attain material perfection. If one tries to mingle the worship of the Yogamaya and the Mahamaya, considering them one and the same, he does not really show very high intelligence. The idea that everything is one is a kind of foolishness indulged in by those with less brain substance. Fools and rascals say that the worship of Yogamaya and the worship of Mahamaya are the same. This conclusion is simply the result of mental speculation, and it has no practical effect. In the material world, sometimes one gives an exalted title to an utterly worthless thing. In Bengal, this is known as giving a blind child a name like Padmalochan, which means lotus eyes. One may foolishly call the blind child Padmalochan, but such is an appellation does not bear the meaning. In this,
Thank you, Mataji. Next, Prableen.
We can comment on this. This term Yogamaya, Mahamaya, there's two Mayas. So Yogamaya is ultimately the source of both Mayas. But the idea of Yogamaya coming from this is the spiritual potency of the Lord. And this is also an illusory energy that covers the living entity to engage in deeper relationship with Krishna in one of the five rasas, as a conjugal relationship, as a paternal relationship, etc. Because if you know that Krishna is God, then you cannot have an intimate relationship as a friend or as a parent or as a conjugal relationship. So Yogamaya is also a type of illusory energy, but it's a spiritual side of the illusory energy where one is unaware that Krishna is God. He's just my lovable child. And therefore the relationship is much deeper. Whereas Mahamaya is the external illusory energy that keeps the living entity in the material world under the illusion of false ego, thinking that, I'm this, I'm that, this is my house, this is my family, this is my kingdom, this is, I'm this, that's the Mahamaya. So do you understand the distinction between the two? Jesus, Victoria, understand the difference between the two Mayas?
I think yes, but did you?
For me, it's a bit. I missed some part of the classes, but